Doop doop da da. Do 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 do. Guinan and Q and defend. Okay, people. Uh, Hello, everyone. Welcome to a special episode of Inconsisti-Trek. Today, we're going to talk about a subject that has been on the debating screen, on the debating stage of actual Trekkies for decades. Literally, I've been having this conversation for decades, and that is simply this, right? Can Guinan, being an Allurian, pose any threat to the Q, right? And by extension, can the board pose any threat to the Q? Now, I think I've done a video on this, just focusing solely on the Borg and the Q, based on another episode that either should not have been made or they should have expanded upon a lot more too. And that was the whole little "don't provoke the Borg." But today we're talking about this little gem right here.
Picard, if you had half the sense you pretend to have, you would get her off your ship immediately. And if you'd like, I'd be more than pleased to expedite her departure. You know him?
We have had some dealings.
Those dealings were 2 centuries ago. This creature is not what she appears to be. She's an imp, and where she goes, trouble always follows.
So, as you can tell, this is season 2, episode 16. Now, for people who watch Star Trek The Next Generation, you'll know that Guinan made her first appearance in season 2. Yeah, season 2, episode 1. I think it was The Child or something like that. Anyway, that's very important because she was basically not only a new character, but represented a new species. Now, because I'm about to get into the whole Canon Night thing, man, I got to put on my Canon Night devices. They help me see into canon a lot better. Anyway, so let's talk a little bit about that. See, because in that episode, that it's a lot going on in that little interaction that a lot of people probably hadn't considered. And again, it's because this is the first time they trying to figure out what they're going to do with this character. But because of the same events of this episode, we're going to use to kind of shed a light on why a lot of perception is wrong about this particular interaction. And let's talk about it. So here's the thing. Q basically represents the gods of the Star Trek canon. And when I say the gods of the Star Trek canon, that's what I mean. When Q play hide and seek, they can go from the sub quantum realm all the way to the beyond macro realm, starting from the beginning of the universe, Big Bang, all the way to the end, all of the time in between. By the way, all of the various dimensions, realms, and realities. Also, on top of that, any reality that they decide themselves to conjure up or imagine, all of this is their playground just when they're playing hide and seek. It's been shown in canon that the only weapons able to even injure a Q have been celestial weapons on the supernova and up scale. All right, so let's just start right there with the type of beings we're dealing with when we talk about the Q. Now, in this interaction between Guinan and Q, there's some things that you guys will probably notice that Q has never done in Star Trek canon. First, whenever Q decides to use his power, right, it's either a snap or for my girl Amanda, she do that little weird wave thing, right? But there's always some type of, gesture that goes with that. We've never seen Q, especially Q, do a sustained whatever this was thing that he did. And that is the only time and only interaction in all of the years that Q has ever been featured in Star Trek canon that he's done that hand gesture. So that was the interesting thing that they put in there. Second thing was Guinan, she put up some kind of counter gesture, right? That we've never seen her use anymore in all of Star Trek canon. Now let's talk about the LR Allurians. Now, we've only met, to my knowledge, two of those species in all of Star Trek, and that has been Guinan, and that was Soren from Star Trek Generations. Now, here's the thing about Allurians. We also know that they can perceive changes in time, in the time space. All right, so they can perceive when time's been messed with. They know when people are not supposed to exist in that time frame. They know when people are supposed to be dead, or They know these things, all right, but perceiving these things and having control over them is very different. Because in the same episode where we learned that Guinan had this ability, she wasn't able to do anything to correct it, but recommend to Picard what he should do. So we know that Allurians will perceive these changes in their reality, but they have no power to affect change in those realities. So that's the first thing. So anything that Q does to Guinan would basically understand what happened, but wouldn't be able to do anything to stop it or to alter it. That's the first thing. Now, in this interaction, Q calls Guinan an imp. All right. Now, if you anybody who knows anything about fantasy or the supernatural, you'll know what an imp is. It's basically this little devil, homie of the devil, man. This little servant of the devil that's mischievous and all that kind of stuff. Brings trouble and bad luck. Uh, is that something we know of Guinan to be mischievous and bringer of bad luck? As a matter of fact, Guinan is the opposite, and Allurians have been described in canon as being listeners. You can't be real mischievous if you're being, a listener. Now, the thing is that a lot of people seem to think that Guinan, El Allurians, probably didn't use their power to defend themselves against the Borg, which, by the way, assimilated the Allurians. Because think about that for a second. If the Illurians had any type of way of defending themselves in even the most smallest percentage against the gods of Star Trek, but why didn't they defend themselves against getting assimilated by the Borg? A lot of people say because the Illurians are pacifists. That's why they didn't do it. They could have did it, but like my boy, the other imp that was shown to be described as such in Star Trek canon was Kevin Oxbridge. Why didn't Kevin was a pacifist? He'd rather let everybody on the planet die. Maybe the Elulurians was the same way. But again, we've only met two Elulurians in Star Trek canon, and I'm a venture to say that neither of them were pacifists. They had the potential to be, but they were not. Guinan, well, is a better phaser shot than Worf. Yeah, you remember they was on the holodeck training and Guinan was just tearing stuff up with the phaser. Yeah, Guinan is, yeah, she's not a pacifist. Remember they got turned into kids and rascals. Guinan was the first one talking about some, hey, yeah, let's go do some stuff, right? Soren, he was straight up destroying solar systems just to get what he wanted, right? So they are not pacifists. They don't strike me as the type that would have just stood by and been like, yo, we gonna let. Okay, so what can I describe as those hand gestures meaning? Okay, maybe that was some kind of way of helping Guinan keep her individual perception stronger when Q decided to do whatever it is he decided to do. But as far as being able to defend or change, alter, stop anything that got to do with the Q coming from El Alurian, that's not going to happen. And I really wish they would never had either put that scene in Star Trek canon or had expanded upon it. But like I said, in the same episode, you can't tell me that some people who could defend themselves in any way against the board, against the Q, then got assimilated by the board. That ain't gonna work, people. Come on, it's the Q. Like, anyway, let me know what you guys think. It's Inconsistent, right?